What's good, everyone? It's your boy Nazi with another video for the channel. Welcome back to DMV Sports Zone. And we're back with another Commanders weekly live stream. It will be mostly NBA talk on this video, but back with Abdullah. You guys know him, one of the co-hosts on this channel, as well as Paul, one of my good college friends, college roommate as well. Boys, how are you doing? And how excited are you guys for this stream?
I'm doing great.
Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
No, had a great NBA playoffs. Very interesting one, at least. Sad the season's over, but excited for football. So it's a great time to be a sports fan. Feels good.
No, I agree. Steph just won his 4th ring. I'm feeling great. So yeah.
Fake LeBron stan. Where does the Warriors dynasty rank all time for you guys? 4 chips in 8 seasons. We'll start with Abdul on this one.
Okay, so it's kind of weird because they had like a hiatus, the injuries and all, and they had tanked for 1 season. But I'm not putting them over, the Bulls dynasty or the Spurs dynasty. But I would say they're maybe 3 in top 5 in my opinion. But I don't think this dynasty it's going to continue. I have them win next year too. So
yeah, that's exactly my opinion. I don't know where to rank it yet because it could still happen for 2 more years, right? And the other point is I think the NBA values back-to-back championships. So, for example, I think the Warriors dynasty is incredible. But is it really more remarkable than the Shaq-Kobe era that was like really league-defining, 3 straight? And I think there have been so many dynasties throughout. I mean, even – well, for example, like the Bill Russell Celtics. I don't think anything beats that dynasty, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's probably just outside the top 5 for me, just because of the fact that it wasn't a year in, year out basis, and you did lose, 2 finals. But it's still remarkable in their consistency. It's somewhat like the Spurs in that regard.
Agreed. I think it's very similar to the Spurs one. They did end up winning. So 4 chips in 8 years, but they won 1 more in 2014. The Warriors could potentially surpass them if they win another chip next year. We'll get into our thoughts in terms of the NBA Finals for 2023 soon. But yeah, I think the Bulls are clearly ahead of the Warriors. I would probably say the Celtics as well. I know Abdullah likes to disregard stuff that happened 50, 60 years ago, but it is what it is. And, I would definitely put them top 5, though, maybe even top 4, top 3. But we shall see. The Warriors dynasty, I agree with you guys. The Warriors dynasty doesn't seem like it's over, and we'll see if they continue to win more championships along the way. But my next question for you guys is, who's the better player right now? Abdul and I chatted about this via DMs, but Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum? And we can start with Paul on this one.
So I think Jason Tatum is by far the better player. Now, I think Jaylen Brown has proved that he could show up and score points in big games. I think that's the difference. If you're asking me today, who would you pay the Supermax, right? Who would I want on my team? I would choose Tatum. But I think Jaylen Brown is necessary on a finals winning team. I just think Jason Tatum just couldn't step up. He probably cursed himself by wearing the Kobe wristband.
No, I mean, for me, it's the same answer. Although, I did ridicule him a lot because he didn't show up. At the end of the day, he's 24. He's so young. He can still definitely run the East for the rest of his career. And Jaylen Brown, they just complement each other well. Obviously, Jason Tatum does deserve a Supermax. And hopefully, next playoffs, he just dominates and gets his first chip sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys both hit the nail on its head. He's only 24. I don't know if you guys saw the graphic that was posted on social media, but he put up pretty much the same stats that LeBron put up in his first finals appearance. And I think LeBron was 23-ish at that time. So, I mean, around the same age. He's not LeBron. Nobody's LeBron. But, he has plenty of room to grow. Celtics are very, very young. There aren't too many guys on that team that are having contracts that are in the millions of dollars, right? Or contracts that are massive enough where it breaks up the team right now. A lot of the players are young, a lot more years in their bright future, in my opinion, that are about to be coming. And but honestly, in terms of my answer to this question, I would probably say Jason Tatum as well, just because throughout the playoffs, he did put up 26 points, 6.7 rebounds, 6.2 assists per game, compared to Jaylen Brown's 23 points, 7 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. Although I will say when it mattered most, Brown put up 31 points and Tatum had 13 in Game 6 of the finals. But at the end of the day, you wouldn't go wrong either way. But the one thing that both of these players need to correct ASAP is their turnover problem. That is unacceptable. Paul said from the beginning of the playoffs, even I think before the playoffs, he talked to me about how, they turn over the ball and stuff. So credit to him. But I didn't really realize it until watching the Eastern Conference Finals and then watching the finals, how turnover prone both of those players are. They need maybe they need some stickum on their hands or just, work on their handles throughout the offseason. But it's definitely unacceptable for a team that far into the playoffs to have two players who turn over the ball that much, because honestly, turnovers are what costed the Celtics a lot of the games in the finals.
Mm-hmm. Although I do think that the turnover game was a bit on the Warriors, I would say. Because after, I think it was during or after Game 3, the Warriors' defensive strategy was, we're going to send help, right, when Curry is on Tatum or when there's a mismatch with Tatum or Brown. But they wouldn't fully double. They would just send someone like Draymond Green, middle of the paint, right? Basically bait the Celtics to try to swing the ball like they did when they were playing against the Bucks, right? When they played against the Bucks, it was just a full-on double. Like there'd be a double team, and then Grant Williams, in Game 7 could hit like 10 open threes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Warriors did a great job of, like faking these double teams, but then being ready and like being in the way of their switch passes. So I really think that was also on the Warriors for just knowing exactly what the Celtics want to do and just, literally putting their defenders right in the way of those passes.
Yeah. Kudos to all-time great coach and Steve Kerr for figuring the Celtics out. And also kudos to who I think is was the most consistently great player in these finals from Game 1 to Game 6, being Andrew Wiggins, who played great defense. His offense, 18.3 points per game, 8.8 rebounds per game. But honestly, I feel like the stats don't show the full story. He was forced to defend Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. A lot of the time, he more than held his own in that aspect. And of course, I just brought up the offensive stats, right? So he's a good player there. But do you guys have thoughts on the most consistently great player in these finals? And we could start with Paul on this one.
Now, consistently great is an interesting question. I think your assessment is right, although I will say the most consistently great player for his expectations was probably Al Horford. Because Al Horford, I don't think I've seen him miss a three that was even mildly contested. And for someone who's been in the league for so long, been in the NBA playoffs, never in the finals, so to get to the finals and hit basically every shot he had to hit, and also play, solid defense for, a big man when he got switched onto guards, I think it was impressive. So I would pick him for the most consistent player, period. But I guess consistent and great would be for sure Wiggins.
Yeah, I was going to go with Andrew Wiggins as well. I mean, playing both sides of the ball extremely well. Obviously, if Steph didn't have that, terrible shooting slump in Game 5, I would have gave it to him because it's Steph Curry. But yeah, I'll give it to Andrew Wiggins. I mean, we saw the stat. It was like 100 turnovers by Jason Tatum in the postseason. I'm pretty sure. And just, guarding most ever. Yeah, that's insane. Obviously, he's 24. He's young, but Andrew Wiggins, and just think about the story. Everyone was writing him off as a bust, a guy that shouldn't deserve to be paid, and he's definitely going to get a bag this offseason. So I'm happy for him, and he balled out.
Maybe a return back to Cleveland. Who knows? But I want to get your guys' thoughts on this question, though. Of course, I was trying to ease my way into this conversation. Mohammed Naeem with the first comment, Curry GOAT point guard. We'll get into our thoughts here. I appreciate the comments. But Abdullah, first, where does this championship and first out of 4 tries, finals MVP for a 34-year-old Curry rank him all time?
Well, first of all, I think it should have been a second finals MVP because Andre Iguodala shouldn't have deserved it. But Steph Curry is the greatest point guard of all time. He has surpassed Magic Johnson, and he is a top 10 player of all time. If you just look at it, the league has evolved, and this guy obviously has made the biggest impact in the game of basketball, shooting-wise, playmaking-wise, and makes his teammates better. Obviously, if he wins another one, I think it's undisputed that he's a top 5 point guard. I mean, top 5 player of all time and the best point guard of all time. And I'm just gonna after he wins, maybe another a Finals MVP and another championship, history is just gonna write itself. So.
You see, I'm not willing to say top 10 yet, but here's what I will say is wherever people are willing to put Tim Duncan all time, I think you have to at least put Curry right behind or potentially right above Tim Duncan. Because in a sense, they're both part of these dynasties. They've both been, like it or not, extremely consistent and, winning basketball players. I personally don't like how people stress these finals MVPs because sometimes it does feel like they're given out for storylines and not necessarily the best player. I mean, if it were the best player, it'd be given to LeBron even when he lost, right?
Yeah. I think that's a fair point. I will say, though, with finals MVPs, they're usually given to the player that proves to be most pivotal to the reason why their team won the championship. And for as much hate as Andre Iguodala gets for not putting up the offensive stats in that series, watching that series from start to finish, realized that his presence on the defensive end was the most pivotal reason why the Warriors won that 2014-2015 finals series. Obviously, Curry put up the stats. Klay Thompson put up the stats as well. Draymond Green as well. But at the end of the day, even with them as many points as LeBron put up, regardless of who was defending him, Andre Iguodala was forced to stop him at the end of games, and he did a pretty damn good job of doing it. And ultimately, in my opinion, he deserved that finals MVP. But in terms of the question, where does this championship rank Curry all time? So I agree with Paul. He's not top 10 yet. He's just outside the top 10. I think he's top 12, if not top 11. The guys that I have above him right now, I get Paul's point about Tim Duncan, but Tim Duncan also won 3 finals MVPs while winning 5 championships, I believe, right? So in terms of my ranking, I have Michael, LeBron, in this order: Michael, LeBron, Kareem, Magic, Bill, Kobe, Tim, Wilt, Shaq, Bird, and yes, slightly, but yes, still KD above Curry right now. Curry won 2 finals MVPs, and Curry only won 1, of course, but Curry could change that next year. We'll see. And yeah, I think a lot of people, when they think about KD, they forget the fact that he's been around since 2007. From 2007 to 2016, sure, you had Kobe winning some chips, but really it was LeBron and KD's league for most of that time. Like, we got to be honest with ourselves. And for that reason, with Curry being around since 2009, from 2009 2014, he was a relative unknown in the league. Sure, he's had a great 7 out of 8 years because he was injured a couple years back. But honestly, I got to put KD above him. And again, KD was the best player. CJ McCollum, one of their fiercest competitors, right? He even said KD was the best player on the Warriors when he was on there. A lot of other people as well have said that. And honestly, when you're talking about skill set, including defense, KD is the better player all time right now. What do you guys have? What are your thoughts on the KD versus Curry comparison?
Here's what I want to say about that, though, is that KD also didn't start out as a very good defender, right?
Okay.
And it's arguable even now whether you consider him like a great defender. He's only now sort of, I would say, just slightly above average defender, right? And people only say that because he has length and can, You're right. Right now he's better than Curry, but Curry has progressed as a defender.
I agree.
So there's one thing. That's something that KD also had to do. Now, I will say one thing that I would say defines some of these great players, like LeBron, is when you're gone, how does your team do without you? Right. LeBron leaves Cleveland. It's just catastrophic. Right. KD, he left the Thunder, but the Thunder was still making the playoffs. Right. With Russell Westbrook.
I mean, Russ, he won an MVP, though. He was one of the best players of the league.
That's true. But he leaves the Warriors, and the Warriors now have another championship. And when Curry was gone, here's the thing about Curry. People will argue that it's like, great coaching, has a great squad around him, which is true, and the team is built around Curry. But when he was gone, last season with his foot injury, the Warriors were just abysmal, right? Everybody was bad. So I think that's one sign of a great
Klay was
player.
also gone, right?
Klay was gone. Draymond was there.
Draymond by himself. Poole, like a rookie year Poole, right? like without the
That's
player
true, but he was
development, the expert player development that the Warriors have.
That's true. It is true that there were other injuries, but it was quite, it was completely catastrophic to not have Curry there. And I will say, and I think, Pedro points this out in the comments, I think KD's, the recent development with the Nets has been pretty, or at least somewhat rough on KD's legacy. Because a part of this whole ordeal with the Nets was to assemble another team to win KD a championship without the Warriors. KD was supposed to be the one to prove that he could win without Steph. And now Steph has proved for the second time that he can win without KD. So I think, it's hard because if you had to say who's the better player, I would probably go with KD. But legacy-wise, I would have to stick with Curry right now over KD,
That's fair.
KD on my all-time rankings. Also, his unanimous MVP season, I think, is totally unmatched, right? A 40, 50, 90 season, and blowing out the water with the 3-point, most 3 points ever in a 40, 50, 90 season, I think is something that, people don't really appreciate so much.
I mean, Paul just said it all. I agree with all of that. I mean, as Draymond Green told Kevin Durant, we don't need you to win, and that's exactly what they did. They won without him. Steph Curry, obviously,
Poole
like
and
you
Wiggins.
said,
It's not like
Steph,
same team.
like you said, Steph Curry he might not be better than KD as an overall player, but legacy-wise, he is above him.
I actually can't forget that all of us, just with the remarks that we just made, we sort of kind of forgot about the Wiggins addition. I mean, Wiggins and Poole have been added since KD left the team. The Warriors are not the same team that they were before KD won the chip. Honestly, again, Curry's the best player on the Warriors. I don't think anybody is like disagreeing with that statement. He was the best player in this series. It took me some time to fully realize that. I'll admit it, but he was the best player on the series for sure. But in my opinion, if you swap KD and Curry in the situations that they had this year, I think the Warriors still would have won the championship. If you swap Curry with LeBron this year, I think the Warriors would have still won the championship. Like, I get it, Steph Curry, best player on the team, but in terms of most valuable player, like, I think there are a couple guys on this all-time ranking list that I just poured out, right, that if they were swapped in for Curry, they could have won the championship with the Warriors. Warriors are a great team, great player development, great coaching, great everything, great front office, right? There's a reason why Curry has been able to stay on that team while making, 40, 50 plus $1 million a year, right? He hasn't had to take a pay cut for the Warriors to continue building around him, right? Which I think is a marvelous job by that front office. And I think you gotta account that when you're talking about Curry versus KD. KD, for as much as people love to talk about how the Thunder had a good team around him and stuff, I mean, they had to get rid of James Harden, right after that finals appearance in 2011, 2012. Russell Westbrook, I mean, we've seen Russell Westbrook play along other great superstar players. I love Russell Westbrook, but like, he's just not a great fit alongside a lot of great players. And when it's just Russell Westbrook and KD for at least the last couple of years when KD was on the Thunder, I mean, honestly, I think that pales in comparison to what the Warriors had from 2014 to 2016. And now, especially what the Warriors have with Poole and Wiggins. But the last thing I want to say, though, Abdullah, you mentioned Curry's over Magic because he's a better playmaker. Bro, stop it. Magic is not arguably, he's the best playmaker of all time, even ahead of like LeBron. If we're talking about just straight up playmaking, he's the best passer of all time. A lot of people say this stuff. There's a reason why Magic Johnson's oftentimes on people's Mount Rushmore, if not top 5 all time. We got to stop disrespecting Magic Johnson. I know there's a tweet yesterday that I ultimately retweeted on our DMV Sports Zone Twitter page. I can pull it up right now. Magic's still the best point guard ever. 5-time NBA champion, 3-time NBA Finals MVP, 3-time NBA Most Valuable Player. A lot of people love to throw out the 2 MVPs for Steph in this argument. 12-time NBA All-Star, 9-time All-NBA First Team, NBA All-Rookie Team, 4-time NBA Assist Leader, 2-time NBA Steals Leader. I'm sorry, but Curry still has a ways to go to beat out Magic. What is your rebuttal, Abdullah?
I mean, what is there to say, honestly? Even if you don't think he's the greatest right now, he's eventually going to be. If we're just talking about impact and overall, like, you got to give that to Steph Curry. And like I said before,
why though? Magic changed the game with this passing, bro. Like,
Okay, I
that's an
understand that.
underrated thing.
I
Yeah.
understand that, but Steph Curry, you're saying that over his game hasn't changed the game of basketball, made it
No,
more
he
impact.
has.
Yeah, more
Made
than
more
Magic
impact. I'm
Johnson.
disagreeing with you on that.
What?
I'm disagreeing with you. Both of them made an insane impact.
Okay, yeah, but Steph Curry literally revolutionized basketball.
Okay. That is not sufficient nor necessary for you to be a top 5, top 10 player of all time.
Okay.
There are players across sports that have changed the way their sports have been played. You have maybe to a lesser tier than Steph, but you have a Michael Vick in football. You have an AI in basketball. You have all these legends, right? That doesn't necessarily mean they're top 10 all time. That doesn't necessarily mean they're better than Magic Johnson or better than a player in their sport that's like a Magic Johnson, right? Like, I think this whole revolutionized, change the way basketball's, that doesn't necessarily mean you're top 10 all time. And that especially doesn't necessarily mean you're better than Magic Johnson. We got to stop sleeping on Magic Johnson just because a lot of us did not see him play.
I think Magic might have changed the game perhaps more than Curry. I think the three-point shooting was probably inevitable. And I'll say this, Curry's brand of three-point shooting is a lot different than what other players are doing. Like, he's constantly running off the ball. He's constantly running around screens. I think a lot of the three-point game these days is like James Harden, just like ISO step back threes. So I feel like the Curry method hasn't even been fully utilized, right? But Can you think of another player, like a playmaking, just, guard or forward before Magic Johnson? It feels like before Magic Johnson, it was just the age of centers, right? It was just dominant big men. I mean, I can't think of anyone other than Pistol Pete. So you're telling me that, Magic Johnson, it really feels like he's the first modern NBA player, right? So I really think his impact, probably isn't as well appreciated.
Yeah. But yeah, I think this should also be an interesting conversation. Where does Curry rank among the best players in basketball right now? And we'll start with Abdul on this one.
Okay, so in no particular order, I still have
no, gotta get the order, bro. Gotta get the order.
Okay. Okay, so I'll man, this is gonna be tough. Oh, okay. Although he just lost in the first round, got swept in the first round, like Steph Curry. KD is still the best player in basketball, and then I have Giannis, and then I have LeBron, and then I'll have Steph Curry. And 5, when I don't even know if this guy's gonna be healthy. I was gonna say Anthony Davis. I mean, I don't even know about Kawhi either. Like these, I don't know. Am I missing someone?
What about the two
Embiid?
bigs? Yeah, Embiid and Joker.
Oh yeah. I'll give it a Jokic at 5.
All right, so I guess I'll give my top 5. I think number 1 has to be Giannis, right? I think people forget that Chris Middleton was out for that entire 7-game series with the Celtics as well, right? So Giannis easily at number 1. I think 2, I'll go with KD, although he needs to show me that he can win with the Nets. I think 3 and 4, I'll have to tie. It's hard. I want to put Curry at 3 and LeBron at 4, but I think I have to keep them in at a tie, right? Because it was sort of an exceptional year for the Lakers on how poorly things worked out with Russell Westbrook. So I think I'll know about 2 weeks into the season whether or not it's LeBron or Curry at 3. And then 5, I'd probably go with Jokic, but he also needs to show me that he could win.
Yeah. I agree with you on number 1. I think it's still Giannis. Last time we saw him with a fully loaded team, he won a championship in terms of the playoffs, right? He won a championship. I got to go with Giannis. And then 2, I have 2A, 2B. 2A KD, 2B LeBron. I think if either of the top 3 guys were plopped into the Warriors situation instead of Curry, I think any 3 of those guys would have won the championship this year. I also have Embiid at number 4. Joel Embiid, I think, it was a travesty that he was not an all-NBA first team. Speaking of, I know Paul probably saw this on my story, maybe Abdullah as well, but Curry still has a ways to go to catch up to all the guys who he's allegedly ahead of in the top 10 conversation in terms of all NBA teams. And then I have Curry at number 5 and Jokic at number 6. So Curry's a top 5 player in basketball right now. I think there's no argument to be had there. But I think the fun in all this is like 1 and 2, maybe really top 3. And it's funny because even with Giannis and KD bowing out in the East very early, we still have them as top 3 players.
Yeah. Also, Giannis, right? When you say haven't seen Giannis with a fully loaded team, you're talking about Chris Middleton as the second best player, right? I mean, he makes Chris Middleton look like an all-star at times. And Chris Middleton is a great player, but to have a Kyrie Irving on your team, right? Yeah. To have Brown and Tatum on the same team, and then to say a fully loaded Giannis team is when he has Chris Middleton. It says a lot about
Holiday. I mean, yeah.
That's true.
I get it, though. They're not on their level, of course.
Yeah. I think it says a lot about Giannis.
Yeah. Oh, and he plays great defense. Again, defense is 50% of the game. People forget that. They love all the glitz and glamour of shooting. But
LeBron forgot that too.
But he doesn't forget it in crunch time, though. You can look at the Lakers. Lakers being top 3 defensive team in the NBA.
Yeah, he doesn't make it to crunch time anymore because he lets his team get down by 20. Yeah, that's
I don't know if it's him who lets the team get down by 20. I feel like it's the supporting pieces or the lack thereof, with Anthony Davis being literally.
Yeah, Adam Silver wouldn't let him have his load management this year, so he decided to load manage He wouldn't play defense in the first half.
The Chicago disdain. The Chicago bias is coming in right now. You know what? This is the first time I've had both of you guys on at the same time. Who is the GOAT of basketball? LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I'll preface this by saying those top 3, you can change them around however you want, but in my opinion, they're permanent, at least for the next 5-6 years, maybe even beyond that. But that's just my thoughts there. But who's the GOAT in your opinion? LeBron, Kareem, Michael Jordan, maybe someone outside the box?
Paul, you got it.
I mean, it just has to be Michael Jordan. I mean, there's not much more that could be said, right? If you're talking about purely winning, it's Michael Jordan. If you're talking about legacy, it's Michael Jordan. The only argument people could make, and I think they confuse this, is if you put Michael Jordan and LeBron James 1v1, if you put their teams against each other, I think LeBron's teams would win. But that's simply a function of, the game of basketball has changed, right? And that players have gotten better and a lot more skilled. But, I mean, even with that small knock against Michael Jordan, I think he still has it by a mile.
I mean, you know who I'm going to say, LeBron James. I think when we talk about how dominant this guy has been for his career, you got to put him over MJ. Obviously, Michael Jordan, 6 championships, that dynasty was great. But one thing that I've also heard from a lot of NBA coaches and players is that Michael had to learn how to be dominant. LeBron was dominant off the bat. And obviously, getting straight out of high school, the chosen one, the amount of pressure this man had to go through and just exceeded expectations, performed I know 8, I think it was 8 straight NBA finals or something like that. I'm confusing, but when he plays teams like that 7-3,
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10, yeah. It's just the stuff that he has to go through and the supporting cast that he has. It's just completely different when we talk about him and MJ and the situations that he has been through. If you put MJ in those situations, I don't think he could exceed. And if you put LeBron in MJ's situation, I think he could fulfill it and even go beyond it. So that's.
Yeah, and I'm right in the middle. I think MJ's still the GOAT, but LeBron has a chance, which I know a lot of Chicago sports fans do not believe. I will say this, Abdullah, you made the argument about longevity and how, sustained greatness and stuff. I'll use that argument against you with the Curry debate. Curry only has 8 All-NBA teams ever. And that is, I think, 3 or 4 first teams, something like that. And LeBron has 18. Curry ranks 33rd all time in all NBA teams. I feel like all NBA is what we want All-Star to be in terms of being sort of a more objective counting metric that a lot of people use to sort of evaluate players and stuff, like a non-advanced stat. And so I just wanted to throw that out there in terms of that argument. But in terms of, I'm just saying, again, Curry And everybody loves to talk about how Curry has a lot of years left. I definitely agree with you, although a lot of people forget he's 34. And people said he had a lot of years left 5 years ago, and then he had like a couple of injury-shortened seasons. But anyways, the argument, MJ versus LeBron. I have MJ right now. LeBron has a chance. I think he needs some more accolades. Maybe an MVP and a championship, maybe 2 championships, something like that, in my opinion, would probably give LeBron, it would probably make it more head-to-head, if not LeBron overtake MJ. I just think you can't discount what MJ did on the defensive end year in and year out. I always love to talk about how LeBron, when it comes to crunch time, this man is an elite defender. I'll stand by that. I know Abdullah knows the same thing. But, you have to factor in the regular season games, right? You have to factor in most of the season where you can see LeBron getting a little lackadaisical on defense. I've been saying that since 2014, right? Watching Cavs games, I've been saying how LeBron, doesn't necessarily put out full effort on the defensive end all the time. And in my opinion, you got to use that. You got to use that slight thing in this argument against LeBron. But it's still MJ LeBron, in my opinion. Kareem at 3. Again, permanent until I don't know when. But that's the top 3 for me. I do want to get you guys' thoughts, though, on the contenders for next season's championship. I know Abdullah already talked about the Warriors and his prediction being that they win again, they repeat. But what are some contenders for the championship next year? And give me a way too early 2023 finals prediction in terms of the teams that will be playing in that series. And we'll start with Paul on this one.
So, first of all, it has to be the Warriors as the favorites, and I think the heavy favorites, right? And it's not because they could simply run back with the same strategy next year. I think their team could be better next year. And people are forgetting that Kuminga, who played a lot during the regular season, right, probably worth a lot to other teams, didn't play at all during the playoffs, or didn't play at all during the finals, very loose time during the playoffs. And they have Wiseman, right, who didn't play all year, who was a top 3 pick. So, and they have, future draft picks to trade, right? They have draft capital to trade as well. I think if they wanted to, they could reload with even better role players, which is just scary to everyone else in the league, right? But I think another team, I think it's going to be Bucks Warriors, which is kind of the finals that I would like to have seen this year. I think the more interesting division will definitely be the East, because there are a lot of teams in the East that could shake things up and really make a run for it. But I don't think any other team in the West has a shot against the Warriors.
I think when it comes to the Western Conference, I think the Lakers, if they somehow get rid of Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis isn't a day to day, I think they can compete with the Warriors, but I still have the Warriors going to the finals. And from the East, I gotta go with Milwaukee. Giannis is just so dominant and young. He's gonna come back, hopefully with a healthy Chris Middleton, and I still have the Warriors winning.
Yeah, I think the Warriors should be favorites. I will say this though, you can't pay everybody. Like I get it. They've already paid Steph. They've already paid Clay, who, that contract might not look so great as the years goes along. We'll see about that. And I'm pretty sure they paid Draymond. Andrew Wiggins, I heard, is a free agent, right? And I don't know if they're gonna pay that kind of money, the money that Wiggins wants, right? When they already have 3 guys that are locked up for a bunch of money. So I think Wiggins is probably on his way out, and I think that's gonna be a huge loss for Golden State. Because again, we talked about how he's probably the most consistently great player in this series. And honestly, he masked a lot of the deficiencies on this Warriors team, although there are only a few of them. But he played very well. And I think if he leaves Golden State, that's going to be a big loss. If he comes back, of course, they should be the favorites, but we shall see there. But I think a team that's being incredibly slept on outside of the Bucks, who I think will probably win the East next year if Chris Middleton is healthy, Drew Holiday is there, Giannis is healthy, of course. The Grizzlies. I think the Grizzlies are incredibly slept on right now. John Morant was not healthy for a good part of not just the playoffs, but the second half of the season for the Grizzlies. They won a bunch of games with them. Sure, there are advanced metrics out there who say that the Grizzlies are better without John Morant. But when it comes to the playoffs, when it comes to the NBA Finals, at the end of the day, what matters most is whether you have the superstar, whether you have one of the game-changing players on the court for your team. And I think that's going to matter for the Grizzlies next year. It's going to be John Morant's fourth year, I think. And they provided a great test for the Warriors this past season. And I think they'll continue to do that in the West. And honestly, I could see a Grizzlies versus Warriors Western Conference Finals. And it wouldn't surprise me if the Grizzlies win that series next year. But I think the Bucks are going to win the East. And Grizzlies, Warriors, probably neck and neck. Suns, maybe, but I don't know. I feel like with Chris Paul getting older each passing year.
There's a team you're forgetting. I think you're forgetting the Mavs here, right?
Mavs? Okay.
I mean, they just showed, right? They just showed that Luka can carry that team. And something that went unnoticed because it happened, I think, right before Game 6, was that they just traded for Christian Wood, right, from the Rockets. So I think that fills a scoring need of theirs. I think they have a team that could compete, and I would even put them over the Grizzlies. I think the Grizzlies still need, like you said, you can count on John Morant to be the guy, but I still think you need one more option that you could count on, right? You need like a Jaylen Brown who could, put up a bunch of points, put up 30 points. Yeah, you need an Andrew Wiggins. You need something like that, which I just don't think they have with their ensemble cast,
Yeah, they're just a young team. I don't really, as of now, know, but maybe if John takes that next level and becomes a top 5 player, maybe, and obviously with a better supporting cast.
Yeah, man, I'm sorry to just go back to these Curry points, but I feel like I'm forgetting them. So the one thing I will say, you mentioned Luka carrying the Mavericks, right? So in 2020, Curry played for the Warriors, and for as much hate as LeBron's getting for averaging 30 points with the Lakers sucking so bad last year, I mean, Curry averaged, let me pull it up. Curry averaged 30 points as well, 31 points in that season in 2020. The Warriors were trash. And also remember, this is when Curry was 32, technically tail end of his prime, right? When KD were 32, 33. Okay, let me disregard KD, but when LeBron was 32, 33, he was literally putting the 2018 Cavs team on his back and led them to the NBA Finals. So I'm just gonna leave the Curry talk there, but I don't know if you guys have a rebuttal for that. But before we get into the Commanders talk,
I mean,
that's why we talk about LeBron with MJ, right? And that's why we talk about Curry with top 10. I mean, I think that's the difference.
I mean, Steph Curry does live rent free in Naughty's head, of course. So obviously, you
no,
yeah, he definitely does. You could tell.
No, I mean, Paul mentioned Luka. Paul mentioned Luka carrying the Mavericks.
Yeah,
I've never seen.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I've never seen Curry literally carry a Warriors team on his back for the duration of an NBA season. I haven't seen that yet, and I think that's a fair argument.
Only certain players can do that, and that's why he's top 2 player of all time.
We just saw Luka do it. I'm just saying, Luka is not in that conversation at all. But just saying. All right. Commanders talk. Let's go. Title of the stream, Commanders Weekly. Thoughts on Coach Rivera's fine of Jack Del Rio for $100,000 for the latter's comments about how the Capitol riot was just a quote-unquote dust-up. And how about your thoughts as well on Coach Rivera's $100,000 fine that the league handed down to him for excessive contact in OTAs practices? And for this, we can start with Abdullah.
I mean, just typical Washington stuff, always on the news for not being good on the field. No, but in all seriousness, I mean, yeah, what do we expect? We just want a winning team, and when you have stuff that's happening, your defensive coordinator says that, your head coach is going against what he's saying, your players are hitting each other during OTAs. It's just so baffling, and it just again represents this abhorrent franchise for the past 20 years under the ownership of Dan Snyder. And that's all I gotta say. They just gotta start winning. There's nothing really much else to say.
Mm-hmm. And I think obviously the bigger deal is the dust-up comments, and not because of the comments themselves. I think it speaks to a bigger issue, which is if you're a higher up in the coaching team. You're like the like defensive coordinator. Are you not in the locker room? Like, do you not speak with your players about things other than just the defensive scheme, right? I feel like this has to be a bigger issue of, and this might not just be the Commanders, but coaches. Like, are you not talking to your players on a personal level about what they care about and what they, how they feel about their families? Because for you to make a comment like that, you have to just be wildly disconnected from, the locker room as a whole, from your players. You have to be disconnected from the world too, to some extent, but how are you not talking to your players about these things? I think that's probably a more fundamental issue going on, probably across the league, but definitely with the Commanders.
Yeah, well said as always, Paul. I definitely think it speaks to a bigger issue. I mean, you're in the nation's capital, defensive coordinator for Washington's NFL team, and you make a comment like that. And it wasn't just that he called the riot a dust-up. He also compared it to the Black Lives Matter protests as well.
Yeah, that's the bigger issue. That's the bigger issue.
Yeah, when you're literally coaching, predominantly Black players. Another thing, Paul might not know this as much as Commanders fans and stuff, but Jack Del Rio, I mean, you could easily cut bait with him after the type of coaching performance that he had last year. The defense was atrocious for the first half of the season, right? They did improve second half, got into the low 20s and a lot of the defensive rankings after being in the 30s really for most of the year. But I mean, they were atrocious last year. He coached a great defense a couple years prior, but that was also against some pretty weak offenses that we had to play against. And last season, with the money on the line, he was terrible for us. So honestly, I wouldn't have had a problem if the Commanders decided to fire him. I know Coach Rivera is furious with Jack Del Rio. I know he hasn't really said that, but just knowing Coach Rivera, Abdullah, and I having the experience of getting to talk to him at OTAs, and I was one of the first people to thank him for his work pushing diversity and equity and the NFL head coaching ranks and all that. And he very much appreciated all that. And just knowing the type of person Coach Rivera is, I know he's furious with Jack Del Rio's comments. And really, you can even look at Rivera's Twitter likes and stuff. You can really get a sense for where he stands on a lot of issues. And I know he's furious with Jack Del Rio. But then again, the fine is appropriate. And is what it is. The excessive contact thing, though, in OTAs, I mean, Commanders fans, we kind of already know about that from the Jeremy Reeves hit, right? That left, I believe, who was it, Abdullah?
Yami Brown, I think.
Yami Brown, right? I think he was laying on the ground and unconscious, or he just, was out of breath. I don't know what it was, but he definitely suffered from that contact. And it is what it is. We got to move forward. Just another off the field issue, right? Or technically on the field, but sort of off the field issue for the Commanders. And yeah, but on the field is what matters most, of course, right? And I want to get your thoughts, both of your thoughts, on Adam Rank, NFL analyst, having the Commanders going 3-14 this season. I know Abdullah made a great video about it. Guys, go check it out if you haven't already. But what are your thoughts on that? Adam Rank is a Chicago boy, Paul, and I know he is on the radio station for our great friend John as well. He got him on, and thoughts on that. Let's start with Paul on this one.
I think it's just confusing because compared to the last 2 years, right? Carson Wentz is not the answer, but I mean, come on, right? Like, I think if you started a practice squad quarterback, you would win 3 games. Right, if you're the Commanders. So I don't really understand that line of thinking. So it's kind of just baffling to me.
Yeah, so-called analyst. I mean, like I said in the video, just put everything together. 3 wins, starting off 0-8. A team last year 7-9 with the hardest schedule. Taylor Heineke, Ryan Fitzpatrick, what was that guy's name when we played against I don't even know. So many QBs. At the end of the day,
Gary Gilbert.
Gary Gilbert. When you have injuries, it's baffling. It's 7-9, and now you have the easiest schedule coming up, and you just gotta upgrade that quarterback. And everyone's gonna come back healthy. 3-14? Come on, man.
Yeah. You get to play against Danny Dimes twice a year. and you're telling me you only win 3 games. I mean, come on. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones does own
like,
us, but hopefully that'll change soon, by the way.
yeah, I mean that's true. I mean this man turns into Peyton Manning when he plays against us. But well, I mean we have the Jaguars, we have the Lions, we have the Texans, Giants twice. Come on, man. 3-14, bro. Like everybody likes to talk about how I'm pessimistic when it comes to this team. I like to say I'm realistic, but like even I like 3-14, bro. I predict us having maybe 8-9 wins this year. I know that's on the low end for a lot of fans, but we'll get to Paul. Paul reminded me about his Carson Wentz beliefs through his opinion. We'll get to Carson Wentz and that, but like I honestly think that Adam Rank, he's a great fantasy football analyst. I don't know if you guys like follow him for fantasy football stuff, but 3-14. But Paul, I don't know why I forgot about this, but I needed like an unbiased guy to come in here and give his unbiased take on Carson Wentz, because a lot of fans, I talked to you about this, Paul, a lot of Commanders fans have already talked themselves into Carson Wentz. They don't really know the true Carson Wentz beyond the 27 touchdowns and 7 picks, right? They only look at the stats, the counting stats last year. But Paul, you've been on the, I don't know if I want to call it anti-Wentz train or just like a harsh critic of him for a while. Can you give the people out there an honest assessment for Carson Wentz and what he can bring to the table for the Commanders this season?
Oh man. I think the most optimistic outlook you could have on Carson Wentz is that he'll be Kirk Cousins. That's the best hope for Carson Wentz, is to say, please, Carson Wentz, be consistent. Be like Kirk Cousins, right? They should be showing him Kirk Cousins film, which is honestly, I mean, that should say it all, right?
Yeah. And Kirk Cousins been averaging what, 8-9 wins with the Vikings?
Yeah, but then again, maybe if you're the Commanders, you're willing to roll the dice, right? Because your team, the Colts have a better built team than the Commanders, right? And Carson Wentz
say it
kinda
louder
choked.
for the people in the back, Paul. Say it louder.
The Colts had a better built team, and Carson Wentz blew it, right? But then again, Carson Wentz is the type of guy to, bring potentially an extra spark. It's like a gamble. But I just don't think that's, necessarily worthwhile when you're trying to, build a franchise.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll go to your point about a better team. I think offensively, the Commanders have a better, aside from the offensive line and Jonathan Taylor, that receiving core is, I mean, even Michael Pittman, he's barely a wide receiver one. You have Terry McLaurin, hopefully better. You have Terry McLaurin, you have Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel coming back healthy, Logan Thomas coming back healthy, Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick, Brian Robinson, Naughty's boy. And the offensive line, it's a little bit young, but hopefully they'll be stable enough. And that Colts offensive line, I'll keep saying this. Last year, although they were number one in the run game, pass-wise, the passing game, they were second to last. And obviously with Carson Wentz, pass blocking. Obviously with a bad O-line, Carson Wentz, who knows what he could do. We saw that interception he had against the 49ers. But at the end of the day, honestly, the Colts team obviously have a better defense, and the organization is just way better than the Commanders because, you can't compare. I just think in this situation, he'll excel. Obviously, he won't be back to his MVP self. That was before his injury. But I think he'll definitely – because the disrespect is unbelievable. You have guys like Daniel Jones people putting him over Carson Wentz. Guys like who haven't even played – Kenny Pickett, who hasn't played a game in the NFL. Like, that doesn't make any sense at all whatsoever. Baker Mayfield doesn't even know where he's going to play next year, and he's over Carson Wentz. It just doesn't make any sense. It's baffling, and the disrespect is unreal.
Are you telling me you would not rather have Baker Mayfield, though, as a franchise? As a younger quarterback?
I'm sorry.
Oh, man. No, dude,
I would rather have Baker Mayfield. I don't know. I said this on a previous stream, which was you trade for Carson Wentz, and then now Baker Mayfield is available, potentially for a lot less, right? I don't know.
I mean, I don't think it's like, Carson Wentz is way above Baker. I think they're pretty much in the same class, but I do get Abdullah's point, man. I saw the ranking as well. Like, how do you have Carson Wentz below Daniel Jones, Kenny Pickett? Like, that's unacceptable. But yeah, I'm with you, Paul, in lockstep when it comes to Carson Wentz. I think he can give you the spark. I think he's better than Taylor Heineke. Maybe I think some people are wrong in the sense that they think it's an equal thing. Like Taylor Heineke, he has a noodle arm, bro. Like, sure, he got us to 7 wins last year, but bro, there were so many throws that this man's just could not make because of his athletic deficiencies. And I think you won't really have that problem with Carson Wentz, although you'll probably have the problem when it comes to decision making. But we also have that problem with Taylor, right? So I think if you even out the decision making, but improve in terms of the athletic attributes, I think that is an improvement at the quarterback position. And I think we got that in Carson Wentz. But yeah, I don't know. It should be interesting. Carson Wentz, I mean, wet the bed in those last 2 games for the Indianapolis Colts last year. Big reason why they got rid of him. And Abdullah, you made a great comment about the Colts being a better organization than Washington. But, bro, there are people who literally hate you for that comment because all they look at is Jim Irsay and his off-the-field stuff with, like, you know, drugs and all that. Bro, a lot of people don't realize this. Jim Irsay, of course, he's had great quarterbacks that have contributed to this, but he's had the 5th highest winning percentage, I believe, among current owners right now. Like the 5th highest winning percentage, right? Even with all those bad years for the Colts and stuff, he has put the right people in the right position to win games, including quarterbacks, including all the draft picks that they've had, including the general manager, Chris Ballard, who's one of the best in the business right now. I mean, I'm sorry, but the Colts are a better organization. I think I wouldn't be surprised if they have a better record than us next year with Matt Ryan at quarterback. I really wouldn't be surprised. But I think that's our thoughts for the Commanders and Adam Rank and, you know, the Carson Wentz thing as well. But Abdullah, great way to tee off the next topic. Will Terry re-sign with Washington this offseason?
He better. I'm telling you, if they somehow find a way to fumble the bag with a guy that's literally the only positive aspect of this team, I'm actually gonna lose it. I'm not gonna change teams, but they're gonna make it really hard for me because this guy is really a keystone for this franchise. And if you somehow just blow it with him, you blow it. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Paul?
I'd have to say the same thing. I mean, in some sense, it almost feels to me like Allen Robinson, right? He's a great receiver, but really hasn't had a good quarterback, right? So if I were Terry and Carson Wentz, really, I don't know. I mean, is it looking like a solid future with the Commanders? Are the Commanders willing to pay you like what you deserve, what another team might want to give you? I mean, I personally hope he stays for your guys' sake. Also, I love watching him, so it is fun. But, man.
Yeah. I don't know. If I'm Terry, I would strongly consider not being a part of this organization, given all the off the field stuff, given all the on the field lack of winning. But if I'm Washington, I mean, come on, bro, this is a no brainer. Like, what are we doing? I do think they'll eventually get the deal done around the start of training camp, like they did last year with Jonathan Allen. Another positive part of this team, one of the few on this team. But like, bro, and another thing that's sort of under discussed with Terry McLaurin is that pay him now. Don't franchise tag him and pay him next season when he's going to have the best quarterback by far that he's ever had in his career in Washington, right? Who could potentially, you know, inflate his stats, inflate his production, and make him even more valuable next offseason. I think now is the right time to pay him. I would say around what the Eagles paid A.J. Brown, or maybe I think slightly higher than what the Panthers paid DJ Moore. Somewhere in that range, maybe 25, maybe pushing 26 million, but that's probably the cap. You got to pay Terry McLaurin, man. He's the most important player on this offense. He is the only reason why our offense got going for the last 3-4 years. He's too pivotal to just, you know, let out the door. And this is not even accounting for his leadership, bro. How often do you see wide receivers, number one wide receivers, alpha wide receivers, be captains on their teams in the NFL? It's very, very rare. And he's been the one consistent, level-headed force on this team. And I think you cannot let go of Terry McLaurin. He's just too pivotal.
Also, you got to factor in character. Deebo Samuel, a guy who literally unfollowed the 49ers on social media, A.J. Brown arguing with fans on Twitter. Terry McLaurin is just waiting for his money. It's so simple, yet they're making it so complicated.
Facts. For sure.
And I'll never understand this. Why would you even consider the franchise tag, right? Because you're just going to have to pay him more money next year, right? when receivers start making even more money, and then you're paying him so much on the tag, you may as well just give him the deal. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Bro, but we are franchise tag heaven in Washington. We tagged Kirk Cousins a gazillion times. We tagged Brandon Sheriff a gazillion times. I mean, we just love the franchise tag here in Washington. So hopefully we don't use it though for Terry. He's just too good of a player. I'm sorry. And for all the people out there who say, "Oh, he barely put up 1,000 yards last year in 17 games. He didn't even have 1,000 yards in his rookie year. He's a little overhyped." In terms of talent, in terms of skill, he's one of the best receivers in football. I promise you. If he was on the Rams, maybe not the Rams. If he was on the Packers, he would put up a similar season to what Stephon Diggs put up when it was his first year as a true alpha number one receiver for the Bills. He's just that great. I want to get to this though, Paul, noted Bears fan. I believe you're wearing a Bears shirt. I think. Yes, right there. Love Chicago, Chi-Town stand up. But Paul, thoughts on the Bears' prospects this season behind?
Oh man, it's not looking good. It's going to be a competition with the Lions for who could play worse football. That's going to be the competition. Here's the thing. I really don't understand how anyone in the Bears organization thinks this is going to be a good situation for Justin Fields. Because it seems like this year they're saying, okay, right, we tried last year to somewhat win with Fields. We did the whole weird Andy Dalton thing where we're trying to win but also develop, right? So now it seems like they've totally flipped the script and said, all right, get rid of everybody. Just dismantle the defense, right? Get rid of everyone that was moderately decent on the team. And then just let Justin Fields develop. But that's not a good situation for him to develop if he has no help, right? And if his defense sucks and, he's not capable of, or at least not yet capable of like these long drives that'll keep the defense off the field. So I think the Bears are really just going to get steamrolled. And through no fault of Justin Fields, he's not really going to develop as much as the team wants him to. So I think it's just an absolutely horrendous position to be in.
Doyle, you got thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, for Justin, they just didn't give him any help this offseason. You're going to see him get hit a lot. And I'm rooting for the guy, the Buckeye himself. But, you lost your key pieces. I really don't have the Bears winning more than 4 games, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Rank should have switched out the Commanders for the Bears.
Yeah. And I know John would say, well, at least Matt Nagy isn't there, right, to call some crazy play and get him blindside. But I mean, come on. Even a better coach, you can't fix the talent on the team, right? So,
yeah. And I will say this: thank you to the Bears for giving us. First, it was Cornelius Lucas, who was maybe not great, but a very solid left tackle for us, and then of course Charles Leno as well. We appreciate the Bears for their efforts. We definitely do. But yeah, I'm not high on the Bears at all, and I know we have the Bears on our schedule. It sucks that. The first year that we've known each other and the Commanders are coming to Chicago to play the Bears is a year where I think we won't be in Chicago, I believe. So it sucks we can't go to the game, but Thursday night game, I believe, October 13th. But yeah, honestly, at this point, I have the Bears being an easy W on our schedule, although for the Commanders, nothing's easy. Nothing's easy. So lastly, I want to get your guys' thoughts on. We talked about way too early NBA Finals prediction, but way too early Super Bowl prediction in 2023. We'll start with Paul on this one.
Man, I'm feeling a little bit crazy. I'm feeling a little bit out there, and I like my boy Justin Herbert, right? And I think now with Khalil Mack, right, and a healthy defense. I'm going with the Chargers, right? If they can get out of that division, and Justin Herbert's going to play a lot of close games. He's going to play a lot of close games, going to have a lot of experience during the regular season. I don't know. If the Chargers can make it to the playoffs, I like their odds. That's my
first
crazy
time in the playoffs, going deep.
Yeah.
That'd be crazy. The Bengals.
I liked it. Yeah, Justin Herbert, dude. He can pull off some magic. Have you seen him in late game situations? I trust him.
Well,
NFC side though.
Man, that's tough. I want to hear your guys' answers first.
Okay.
I haven't thought this through enough because the NBA season just sort of died down. And now that I think about it, right, it should just be the Rams winning it all again. But
I'm gonna go with the casual answer, and he faked out the whole media. Tom Brady and the Buccaneers are gonna win the Super Bowl. He's gonna get his 8th ring, and
he's gonna get his revenge.
There's a reason why he came back from retirement for only 2 months, man, because he couldn't go out like that, as a wise man once said. I'll have Tom Brady playing. I mean, who's the AFC?
Some tough teams, the AFC.
I know there is, and like losing Tyreek Hill, I would say the Chiefs again, but that's gonna be rough. So
Yeah.
I don't know, but all in all, I have the Bucks winning.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I kind of talked to Paul about this, but over the years I steadily grew more respect for Tom Brady just because I don't know, he just became a more, maybe I think Paul would disagree with this, but he became a more like likable guy, I guess, just like through his social media presence, and obviously just being away from Foxborough helped a lot. But bro, I lost a ton this offseason, bro. He played with our emotions, bro. He literally had all these congratulations and thank you so much, Tom Brady comments go out to him a month and a half prior to coming out of retirement. This man said, I'm taking some time away to be with my family, bro. A month and a half? It took you a month and a half only to realize that maybe family might be too much and you need a return back to the NFL. But anyways, I don't even have the Bucks making it to the Super Bowl. I do think they're going to go far in the NFC just because the NFC, it's not great right now, guys. Like, I mean, sure, they have some great teams at the top. Rams, Bucks, maybe Packers, but without Devontae, I don't know. Although their defense, I think, improved this offseason. I don't know. I mean, who else? The 49ers, who were, I don't know how, but they were in the NFC Championship game last year. I mean, what else? Like, I think that's also another, no way. I think it's also, especially without Amari Cooper, I think it's also a huge reason why some Commanders fans are optimistic, right? Carson Wentz might be the sixth, seventh best quarterback in the NFC, even with all his deficiencies at the end of the day. Like, right? Like, I mean, that kind of gives the Commanders hope. That gives the Bears hope, too, if they were any good. But, but yeah, so back to my Super Bowl prediction. It's tough because I know it's so hard to repeat in the NFL. I really do. I mean, when was the last repeat winner? It's been a while, right? Like a couple decades.
Yeah.
I don't think it was the Patriots this like last decade, but maybe, I don't know. I feel like it's been a while since we have had a repeat champion in the NFL. But I think the Rams are going to be in the Super Bowl. I think they just have too much firepower on offense and defense. I think it's going to be the Bills who play against them. I think the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl. Josh Allen, I've been a believer in Josh Allen since his rookie year. Paul, we had conversations in our apartment about this with one of our good friends who kept hating on Josh Allen, saying, oh, this man's overthrows passes. He's never going to win. I was literally his staunchest defender since his rookie year, since all the errant throws that he threw and stuff. I saw the talent. I saw the skill. Bro, it was so amazing to see. I mean, really, the last couple of years, his progression, but especially last year, bro, he went toe-to-toe with the Chiefs in one of the greatest games of all time. He's going to be back. The Bills added Von Miller as well on defense, who had a great season, second half of the season with the Rams. Bills winning the Super Bowl. I think their first Super Bowl in franchise history. Bills Mafia. Let's go.
Oh, in my opinion on CD versus Terry, it has to be Terry, right? I don't even think it's close, personally.
Yep. I mean, CD had an offense. He had a quarterback, Dak. He had,
and he had other options at receiver, right?
Took attention away from him.
Terry's the guy. He's the guy. He's sometimes the offense.
The only guy.
Yeah.
But Paul, all right, we give you some time. Super Bowl prediction. I think it was the NFC team that we were waiting for.
Yeah, now that I think about it, the Bucks makes sense, and I want to push back too on the timeline of the Tom Brady retirement, right? Because he gets his retirement leak by Shefty. At that point, do we even know if he was 100% going to retire? Right?
I think so. There's already talks about it. Even Skip Bayless talked about
Because
it.
I know there were talks about it, right? But with how soon he decided to come back, it makes me think, if he had time to sit and wait and sit on it and actually, plan a retirement ceremony like a press conference, would he have, backed out of it, or would he have been more committed to retiring? So I like the Bucks storyline here.
All right. So, and Bucks versus your AFC team was the Chargers, right? You got the Chargers winning at this point in June of 2022.
What the hell? Let's go with it. And if I'm right, well, I'll look back on this. Oh man, totally lucky. But we're sticking with the Chargers. All right, Chargers are my team.
Okay. I like that team. They just need to get into the playoffs, man. They really do. I just saw the comment now from Muhammad. Okay, that makes sense for the CD versus Terry comparison. But yeah, guys, this was a great stream. Let me end it off by saying Abdullah and I had a preview video for the NBA Finals. I think apology is too strong of a word here. I'll say Abdullah was definitely more right on a lot of the takes. I'm a bigger man. I'll say that. I thought Jason Tatum was going to step up. Even Paul. Paul was on the Warriors are the better team train for a while too. So props to both of you guys. But with Abdullah being on camera, being on this channel, yes, you were right on more of your takes, bro. Congrats. I guess. I
don't know if you could read.
Doesn't really affect you. Go ahead.
Read the message board. I don't know if you can see that. It says Naughty.
Naughty
was wrong.
Wow. I need you
to come on, man.
Here I am trying to be the bigger man, bro.
Hey, you said Steph Curry was gonna fold in crunch time, and look what happened.
He did in Game 4, but I get it. I really do. He's the best player on the court. His defense was improved. I think I talked about that in the preview as well, that his defense was improved, although he's still not like a great defender. The thing that I think we did talk about Andrew Wiggins in our video, but I think we undersold him a bunch, man. Andrew Wiggins, he's a great player. All the hate that he's getting for being an all-star this year, bro. I could care less, man. If Andrew Wiggins was on your favorite team, bro, you would be hyping him up every single moment of the day. And that's that. So congrats to Abdullah. I got the Rams prediction right with football though. So I guess that's one win. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the DB Sports Zone channel. We like to post fire content like this as much as possible. Also go follow our Twitter page where we post anti-Curry takes. I'm joking. At DMV Sports Zone, Instagram page, all lowercase DMV Sports Zone, and our TikTok, very much run by the great Abdullah at DMV Sports Zone as well. Paul, thank you so much, bro, for joining. Great support of this channel from the very beginning. Great friend. And Abdullah, you guys know him, co-host. But yeah, any last thoughts, guys, before we sign off?
No, it's gonna be an exciting summer. I'm ready for the NFL season. I'm kind of psyched. We got, some people, oh man, all this slander saying that the NBA playoffs weren't that great. That the NHL, people saying the NHL playoffs are more exciting. Come on.
They weren't that great before the finals. They weren't. Remember, there was a lot of talk about how the playoffs underwhelmed, at least during the second round and the conference finals.
I think there were a lot of interesting storylines, right? The Suns folding, the Grizzlies sort of stepping up, and even the play-ins, the Timberwolves crying over winning a play-in game. I think it was a fun
first round.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. You have to say it was a fun NBA playoffs, sort of. I think the NBA is back. I think we could officially say that. The Warriors are back. The NBA is back. It's going to be a great summer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Naughty was wrong. That's the one takeaway I think we can get from this live stream.
This man said the Wizards. This man's just spamming me in the DM saying, "Bro, are you gonna be hype about the Wizards now? We're 10-3. We're 10-3." Bro, literally was spamming me after 13 games of the season. I said the Wizards were gonna be a terrible team in our preview video and on our Instagram story. I said that, bro. This man's don't act like you weren't wrong, bro. And a lot of things.
Even I said they were overrated.
When it mattered most, you were wrong. But that's pretty much it. I
was right on the Super Bowl though. All the people who were hyping up the Bengals. But go ahead, my guy.
I had a great time with you guys talking about sports. I can't wait to the NFL season. It's literally like the only time I enjoy life, and I'm just playing. But hopefully the Commanders don't disappoint because I just can't take it anymore.
And I hope the Bears do well as well. You know, I hope they surprise some people. I love to see Chicago at the top of a lot of things. So yeah, hope holding out hope there. But yeah, thank you guys again so much for watching. Yeah, it's been a great one. Great Commanders Weekly live stream. And the last thing I'll say, man, this would have been a perfect summer for the World Cup, bro. Oh, I hate that it's in Qatar. Oh,
I know.
man.
Why would they make that choice? Whatever.
This would have been the perfect summer. But it is what it is. See you guys on the next one. Peace.